Bob Agnew, my boss at KNBR.
So guys, how's the connection?
It sounds excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stay right where I am.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you so much.
So if you're ready, we're ready.
We're going to record a little quick 2-minute thing, and then we'll get right to you.
All right, here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be fun because we're going to have a repeat guest on. Who is it?
One of my old friends and a guy who actually is responsible for getting me to KNBR,
Is that right?
where I was for 18 years, the all-sports station in San Francisco, Steve Bitker. And Steve left KNBR shortly after I got there, a couple years later, but he's been at KCBS for 25 years, the all-news station, doing mornings, and just got admitted to the Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame, and a huge baseball guy. So we're going to get some good
baseball guy.
There he is, eh?
He's on the phone.
He's ready he's champing at the bit.
And for those in the national audience, KCBS is kind of a big station out here.
It is. It's the all news radio station. It's the #1 station. It has been the #1 station in the market pretty much for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So to end commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and in honor of Steve Bitker, we're going to ask a baseball question.
Ah, right.
In fact, I think these questions are going to be probably pretty easy for our young friend on the phone. You are young, aren't you there, Steve?
Young at heart.
There you go. That's right.
You got to be young at heart to play baseball.
That works. All right, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding right around 8%. They had to lower it just a little bit. It's about 7.95%, but that's close enough to 8% in today's market. That's really, really solid.
Let's not get greedy.
Oh, yeah, exactly. In fact, the average loan to value is only about 55%.
Wow.
So you can't get too much more conservative than that. You definitely got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. You are listening to Sports Econ 101, and don't touch that dial. When we come back, we're going to have baseball aficionado Steve Bitker with us. All right? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. All right. Thank you, sir. We're going to save this file, and we'll get right in.
Nice thing about this, Steve, is it is taped, so we will be kind of in our discussion sort of generic about the playoff series. But you know, if you want to get anything specific, go right ahead. It's a pretty free form kind of format we do here. It's not like
Yeah, you've joined us before.
Yeah, you've been on this thing before.
Yeah. So what day is this on?
I think it's on Saturday, isn't it? Yeah. Ron Barr has still about 140 stations nationwide.
That's more than that, actually.
It's more than that. It's about 100. I saw Ron at the 49ers game. I'll probably see him there tonight because I'm going down there.
Very good.
But it's also on Armed Forces Radio, and iHeartRadio and some other platforms. The network does a podcast and what do you call this? The
YouTube
webcast.
Or,
the
YouTube,
webcast. So, it gets a lot of play. All right.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Away we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who's on the phone?
Now we got Steve Bitker, one of my good buddies from a longtime radio cohort. Used to work together at KNBR, All Sports Radio, and then Steve moved over to the All News, KCBS, where he has been holding forth for 25 years doing morning sports drive, and he is a huge baseball guy. Was a backup announcer with the Oakland A's for a number of years. Did minor league baseball with the Sonoma Crushers, independent league team here just north of San Francisco. And then I got to ask you, first of all, about these playoff series. As we speak, now the series are just getting underway, but when this show airs, there will be a couple of games into it. Which one of the 4 series intrigues you the most? Any one in particular?
Well, Bruce, I think they're all very intriguing. But if I had to pick one, seeing that I am based in San Francisco, I would take the Giants and the Cubs. And maybe even if I weren't in San Francisco, I might take the Giants and the Cubs because with the Giants, you've got the World Series champions 3 of the last 6 years, the team that everybody knows has won in even years, 2010, 12, and 14, didn't make the playoffs at all in the other years, and now suddenly they're back despite going 30 and 42 in the second half of the season. They had a great first half, a dreadful second half. They got hot the last week, won 5 out of 6, got in as the second wild card and won a classic 3-0 game from the Mets. Classic because it was scoreless through 8, and Syndergaard and Bumgarner were absolutely sensational. and they're facing the best team in baseball all season long, the Cubs, who won 103 games. They got a 16-game margin on the 87-win Giants. So for all intents and purposes, it should be a slam dunk. But, Bruce, as you and I both know, it never is. In fact, I did some homework last night and discovered that since 1979, there have been 42 teams that have won 100 games in a season, and 37 of those did not win the World Series.
Wow.
Target on their back.
Ooh.
And we both know that starting in 1995, with the advent of the wild card, it has become all the more difficult because you have this extra tier of teams that are in it. And so I think the chances of a 100-win team winning a win team now, it's even harder than it was before. But, you know, one of those teams that didn't make it was Seattle when they won 115 games back in 2000 or 2001, and they got knocked out in the first round by the Yankees. So during this period of time when only 4 100-win teams have survived since 79 to win the series, 3 other teams I discovered have won 87 or fewer and won the World Series, and one of those was the Yankees in 2000 when they lost 15 of their last 18 games.
Wow.
You could not find a team that was more ice cold going in. And what did they do? They upset the A's, beat Seattle, beat Atlanta, won the World Series. So the stage is set. It's not a slam dunk for the Cubs by any means, but you've got the best versus the team that has the most number of guys who have that winning experience all the way through the World Series. So it's very compelling. Great pitchers on both sides. A lot of power on the Cubs side. A lot of contact hitters on the Giants side.
Well, wasn't that A's upset? Wasn't that the one that Jeremy Giambi got tagged out at the plate? I know.
That was actually in 2001. Believe it or not, that was the first.
Was that the 2001?
Yeah, they lost to the Yankees in 2000 and in 2001. The A's had Steve, you were covering the A's very closely in those years. The A's from 2000 to 2003 were in the playoffs every year and got knocked out every year in the first round, and they had some great teams themselves.
Yeah, they did. In fact, one of those years they won the first 2 games in New York, and then went to Oakland and couldn't put them away.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was the old Derek Jeter. I remember that. It's weird because well, again, this is being taped right now, but last night Denard Span gets called out, and I'm thinking at second base on a steal, and I'm thinking if he slides head first, he doesn't have to worry about getting close.
But then if he slides head first, maybe he breaks his pinky like Brandon Crawford did a couple of weeks ago. So
it's a more risky play, and I know a lot of people said how could they make the call they made because he was clearly safe, but it's possible he slid off the bag.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what happened.
For an instance, and
not enough to overturn that.
But I remember that I was at that Peter Giambi game with my younger daughter Janelle at the time, and I remember telling her in advance when Giambi got on base, and I said, "Watch, they're going to put in Eric Burns to pitch run." What Arnau's going to do because Burns was a rookie and he was on that roster the postseason only because of his speed. And the A's didn't make that move. And of course, Burns would have scored easily, and who knows what would have happened then. Yeah,
that was a turning point. Well, you mentioned the Giants-Cubs. That is such an intriguing matchup, as you say, because of the Giants' hot streak at the right time. One in the American League that really fascinates me is Toronto and Texas. There's no love lost between these teams. I know that we in the media tend to blow these little incidents up bigger than life, but the little fight that a couple of guys got into about a month ago, and Batista and Rufnet Odor, I think is his name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Rufnet Odor. Now say that 100 times.
In fact, I'll give you some trivia, Bruce, on Rufnet Odor.
Okay.
His younger brother, who also is an infielder, also in the Texas Rangers organization, and his name is also Rufnet Odor.
So there are 2 Rufnet Odors, and they're brothers.
So if his younger brother makes it, they're going to have to use a middle initial to differentiate between the 2.
That's like George Foreman naming all 6 of his kids George.
Having said that, there's so much animosity, and it's not media created. I mean, with Bautista a year ago, hit the game-winning 3-run homer in the very same ALDS at the bottom of the 7th inning that put them ahead by 3 runs. He had that classic bat flip. didn't upset some members of the Rangers because they understood the emotion of the moment, but it definitely pissed off some others. Then you segue into this season and you see the battle between Odor and Batista at second base. So tensions are going to be high in this one throughout the series. So that's appealing. The Dodgers and the Nationals is appealing because, you've got Kershaw and you've got Scherzer, and unfortunately it doesn't look like Strasburg's going to be able to go, but that's an intriguing series. And Boston-Cleveland is, because Boston, you got Francona, who led the Red Sox to 2 World Series titles, breaking a near 100-year curse, going up against a team that he used to manage, and he's now with Cleveland. I think he's going to get Manager of the Year in the American League because he's gone the entire season without Brantley, his outfielder, who's probably his best position player, and then even after losing 2 of his best young starters in Salazar and Carrasco, the team still wanted him.
He might get it just because he didn't get fired during the year. It's funny, that bat flip. To me, I actually kind of like it as long as you're not pointing at the pitcher himself or looking him in the eye and trying to show him up. Like you said, it's just an emotional thing. You're just getting excited.
It's kind of like taking the football and slamming it into the end zone.
Exactly. In fact, you remember Tim Lake for the Cardinals?
Oh, yeah, the backup catcher.
Yeah. He had a home run against the Giants to knock us out, and I was upset, but that was a classic bat flip.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, from that end of it.
Sure. Well, you mentioned.
I agree with you. I'm totally okay with it.
Let him have a little emotion. Yeah.
Sure.
It's
exciting.
That moment, I mean, it's the deciding game. 2 men on, tie score, gets it into orbit. I mean, who wouldn't want to do a little extra bat flip at that moment?
Yeah, and you get guys like Joe DiMaggio who never showed any emotion except for the one time on the catch, he gets robbed of a home run. And it's like,
it kicks second base,
ooh, come on. We like the excitement here. Okay, guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. Now, again, Steve, if you know the answer to this, you got to just not say anything until we come back from commercial break, and then we'll let you answer it, okay? We are talking baseball here. What U.S. professional sports team, of course I shouldn't have said baseball, but I'm giving you a hint, it is baseball here. What U.S. professional sports team has been in the same city with the same name for the longest period of time? And it's not the Oakland A's, because they were the Kansas City A's.
And Philadelphia A's before that. Athletics, actually.
That's right, exactly. Okay, and let's see. That's our trivia question. And when we come back, we'll see who knows the answer to that. All right? So again, what U.S. team has been in the same city with the same name for the longest period of time? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. All right.
I'm going to guess the Pittsburgh Pirates, but I'm going to let Bit take a shot at it.
I'm going to take a shot.
Yeah, you take a shot. I'm saying, just off the top of my head, I'm not thinking about all the other teams, but because I know Boston used to be the Pilgrims, I think, weren't they?
That's right. They were.
I am not going to say the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Okay.
Yeah, just hold on. Keep us in suspenders there.
What a beautiful day today. Oh, my God. So gorgeous. I was out in the water yesterday, and it was so nice, but the waves weren't that good, but it was just such a beautiful day. Oh, my God.
I've been out with my grandson just at the park, lying on the grass.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, that's great.
My kid's dog is just having a blast, but my wife, Alice, is here, so I got a break for this.
Now, is this Janelle's little boy?
Mayling.
How old is Mayling now?
30.
Oh, my gosh.
We're all getting old.
Oh, my goodness. Well, my daughter just started middle school, and that seems old to me, but she already wants a little, give me some money and leave me alone. I want to go, hang out with my friends downtown, and I'll call you on the phone when it's time to come pick me up. So that's what I think.
Girl is starting to get a little bit. I told you, get ready for it.
It's an awkward age.
Yeah, it is.
But then they come back.
That's true.
Yeah, my daughter's visiting this weekend. I got to pick her up tomorrow.
That's right.
How old's your daughter?
She is a sophomore in college. She is 19, and we just redid her room. She'll get all excited, and we're remodeling the backyard, so she'll get excited about that.
Edward's other kid has just got out of college, and is he working now?
Yeah, he's got a great job. He just passed the CPA exam. He's working for Edwards Life Science.
Wow.
Where do your kids go to school?
Both of them went to Chapman University in Orange.
Orange, yeah.
Yeah, right next to Disneyland. That's the only reason my daughter went.
How many students there? About 5,000.
Also, mine went to Davis.
Ah,
where did yours go, Ben?
Davis.
Yeah, yeah. Great school.
Yeah,
Great school. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our first trivia question. What U.S. professional sports team, we're talking baseball here, has been in the same city with the same name for the longest period of time? Bruce, what was your answer?
You know, for some reason, the first team that came to mind was the Pittsburgh Pirates, because I believe the Pirates were the Pirates right when Major League Baseball 1903 first World Series. I think they were in that World Series, weren't they, Bit? Wasn't Pittsburgh in the World?
I don't know that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give way to you on that one.
Okay, I think they
Well,
were.
Boston was
You may be right.
Boston and Pittsburgh, yeah.
Pittsburgh, Boston.
My answer, I'm going to go back into the previous century, and I believe it was the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh,
Actually,
yes.
it wasn't. It was the Philadelphia Phillies, founded in 1883.
Okay, but the,
Now,
yeah, but
I know the Reds were the Reds.
The Red Stockings.
but they were the Red Stockings. Yeah, that's true.
That's the catch.
And then they were the Red Legs for a while. Remember in the 50s during the
Ted Klozewski era.
well, during the McCarthy Red Scare era, they were
Is
no
that
longer
why
they were no longer called the Reds. They changed their name to the Cincinnati Red Legs. It's a true
to
story.
get away from the word
Yeah,
Reds.
yeah.
You know what's funny? I wondered why that
Yeah.
they were the Red
Just
Legs.
for- I remember
thought
when
maybe just for speed.
I
or
remember when I
something.
was a kid, about 7, 8, 9 years old, and I the Red Legs. That's an intriguing name.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
a good one.
Yeah, anyway, we're talking to Steve Bitker. Before we broke away, I had a question for you. The Cleveland Indians, to me, are one of the most intriguing teams also, because who would have thought that they would win the Central Division? And they're kind of banged up, but that's a team that's sort of been under the radar all season long.
Yeah, it's true. Interestingly enough, going into the season, I saw them as a real legitimate dark horse because I love their young starting pitchers, Carrasco, Salazar, Bauer, and their veteran who is still under 30, I believe, and Corey Kluber. And these guys all throw gas, and I thought this is a team that could be sort of like the Mets, what the Mets were last year, riding those great young pitchers all the way to the World Series. But I don't think Cleveland's going to survive because Salazar and Carrasco were pulled out, although I did hear this morning that Salazar is starting to throw down in Arizona, but the chances of him being strong enough to pitch this postseason are extremely unlikely, and I just find it hard to believe that they can survive, although none of the other starting pitching staffs in the American League playoffs are flawless by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, they've all got issues.
You know, it's interesting. Off the field, there have been a lot of changes of teams that didn't make the postseason, and one of the changes that kind of shocked me was the firing of Barry Bonds. I would think a guy, granted, he's sometimes
Shocked you?
Well, no, I mean, seriously, listen to me for a minute, because I know you've had some different experiences with Barry Bonds. Bit and I both dealt with Barry Bonds quite a bit, and Bit's experiences were not pleasant. Mine were not so much pleasant, but I got along with him only because probably I worked for the flagship station, and I knew his dad, and we seemed to get along okay. I would think a guy who was that good a hitter, you would want to pick his brain. And one thing I noticed about Bonds when I spoke with him just about baseball, it was like talking to Willie Mays. He could dissect and give you so much information. But from what I hear now, the problem, it's not just the statistics, the fact that the Marlins weren't as proficient as they thought they were going to be, but also it sounds like Don Mattingly was a little upset because Barry, being Barry, going by the sound of his own drum, did not put in a lot of time. These coaches get to the games at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and pore over the computer and look at all the stats. So maybe that it sounds like the move was made originally. Jeff Loria, the owner of the Marlins, hired Bonds over the wishes of Mattingly, and I think when Mattingly went back to him after the end of the season, said, "I want this guy out of here." Maybe that was, I don't know. We're 3,000 miles away, so I don't know all the particulars. But what's your read on that whole thing?
It's very similar to yours, except I never thought he would survive the season. I just didn't think he would survive the day-to-day grind of a season for a guy that was used to being one of the best players in the game. I didn't think he would survive in this role where he had to teach above and beyond just giving guys feedback standing around the batting cage. And in the end, he did survive the entire season, so that surprised me. But he didn't survive long term because Don Mattingly, from what I understand, decided about midway through the season that he didn't want him back You brought up the fact that he wasn't into studying video, which is a central part of the work of any hitting coach in this era. And there was a reference in one of the Miami Herald stories I read that said that Mattingly was not happy with the fact that on plane flights, Bonds insisted on watching movies. That's how he passed the time. And meanwhile, Frankie Menachino is studying video of hitters and pitchers.
Yeah, but how do we know that Barry wasn't watching The Natural? or Pride of the Yankees?
Natural.
Yeah.
Well, we both know, I don't know if our listeners know this, but Barry Bonds, the last 3 or 4 years, from about 2003 through about 2007, not only had his own corner in the clubhouse, he had a Barco lounger. Now, granted, the guy had a bad back. He was in his 40s. They were trying to do as much. He was carrying the club. I mean, in a lot of ways, that was a bad team after 2004. And he had a widescreen TV. It was the oddest thing in the world to go into that corner of his part of the clubhouse and see him sitting there like he was some sort of an overgrown kid watching in his rumpus room. But that was Barry Bonds. It was an unusual situation.
You know what? I couldn't do that. I don't care how much of a superstar I am. You know, just the fact that it's a team sport. You got to have to deal with all these other guys. You don't want them being either jealous of you or, you know.
Well, Jeff Kent didn't appreciate it, did he, Bit? Jeff Kent and Barry had a few. Yeah.
Jeff Kent was one of the very few players that would stand up to him. Danny Darwin was another. They got into it the runway heading up to the clubhouse, either during or after one game. And Sean Dunston, I believe, got into it with him.
Well, Sean's a really nice guy
as
too.
well. Yeah, I mean, we all love Sean Dunston. But unfortunately, during that entire era, as well as in Pittsburgh, with notable exception of one incident involving Jim Leland, and throughout Barry Bonds' childhood, and we really shouldn't waste too much time talking about this guy, but everybody enabled him, for so long. They just basically spoiled him rotten, and that includes the Giants front office that looked the other way when they knew that he was roided up for many, many, many years.
Well, I think the problem also is that when you get a guy who is, he was a great player before he was roided up. Let's face it. The unfortunate thing was he got jealous because Mark McGwire was hitting the home runs. I'll never forget 1998. I'm with the Giants in San Diego, and Mark McGwire hits a couple of home runs and gets closer to the record, and Bonds is starting to scream at all of us who were hanging out in the clubhouse, the reporters, "What are you guys watching? That guy ain't you know what." And I'm thinking to myself, geez, Barry, come on, have some appreciation for another fellow player. But obviously that was not something that he appreciated, and he wanted to one up. And so he got better stuff and made himself even stronger than McGwire and broke his record. So, you can't justify or rationalize that. That's just the way Barry Bonds
funny.
was.
Everyone pitched around Barry, but did they pitch around Mark as much? I don't think they pitched around.
Well, Mark McGwire didn't hit for average though, like Bonds did too. But I don't know. We don't, as you mentioned, but let's move on. Here's an interesting thing, and not to take too much time about this, but I was really kind of disturbed when I saw this. Second baseman Brooks Marlowe of the Astros, you heard this story, twittered. I guess he's a minor league second baseman in the Astros system. Tweeted that Jessica Mendoza is, in other words, no lady needs to be on ESPN talking during a baseball game. Sorry, Mendoza. And the tweet was quickly deleted. And I thought Jessica Mendoza did.
She did a fine job.
She's a former college stand-up baseball player, basketball player, baseball player, softball player at Stanford. Very bright. And I thought she did a nice job on ESPN.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that whole thing, Bit?
I mean, the reaction that this minor leaguer with the Astros hasn't communicated is probably a very common reaction in baseball circles and amongst baseball fans. But as you say, Jessica was a great softball player at Stanford, a great player for the U.S. national team, and she does her homework, and she's extremely articulate, and she has a passion for the game, and it's nice that ESPN not only pursued her, but was not squeamish about putting her on their lead broadcast. There were times, especially early in the season, when I thought the network was trying too hard to sort of showcase her into a star and maybe gave her so much airtime so quickly that it was almost unfair to her. But I think she's grown into the role nicely and gotten into a real comfort zone. And I think that the crew, including Aaron Boone, really enjoy working.
I liked having all three of them, make comments during.
Yeah, Dan Schulman's great too.
Yeah, the ability to rather, I like Kruk and Kite, out here, but Dwayne Kuiper does all the play-by-play, and then Kruko just kind of adds his little bit here and there, which is all good stuff. But it was kind of nice to get each person to put in their own, their own spin on things. You know what I mean?
The challenge is that no one feels left out.
Yeah.
No one feels like they have to try too hard to be an equal part of the broadcast. So I think these three work really well together.
And an interesting thing about Steve Bitker, like myself, and more so in Steve's situation, he's had an opportunity to do a lot of baseball play-by-play. You were a backup announcer with the A's for a number of years. When Bill King would take time off, the great Bill King, who did the A's for 25 years, did the Raiders NFL for 26 years. What was it like working in the booth with? Oh, you want to take a quick break?
We're going to take a break.
Okay.
Then we'll ask.
Okay, well, I
Steve
want to
to
talk
figure
about
this
that with Steve,
okay.
yeah, because I think he's got some interesting things to say about it.
All right, so
All right.
here's our next trivia question is, who was the first Major League pitcher to hit 2 home runs in the same game while throwing a no-hitter?
Whoa.
All right, that's our question.
That's a good one.
Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
I have no idea on that one. Do you, Bet? 2 home runs and he pitched no-hitter?
I have a guess. I
Boy.
don't know if it's right.
Yeah.
The guy that I'm guessing is a very good hitter, and I believe he threw a no-hitter, so he might have.
Okay. It's funny. I was thinking about guys that had great careers, and of course Nolan Ryan maybe had the longest career. And I remember covering the no-hitter in 1991, I think it was, against the A's. And after the game, he's about 42 at the time, 43. Instead of just standing in his locker, he's over in a room where there's an exercise, a stationary bike. And he's on that thing, and we're all talking to him as he's doing his reps on the exercise. I'm just thinking, well, that there's a reason why the guy's still pitching and pitching pretty well.
I remember Jim Gott hitting 2 home runs for.
Yeah.
There you go.
That one.
No-hitter.
Yeah, I don't think he pitched no-hitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tony Lonergan hit 2 grand slams, but that wasn't a no-hitter either.
No. That was against
And
the
he wasn't
Giants.
and Tony wasn't a pitcher either.
Yes, he was.
Was he?
Oh, good pitcher.
The only pitcher ever to hit grand slams.
You know what? I'm thinking of Tony Canigliaro. I always get those two kind of. Okay, no, he was the guy who got hit in the eye.
Sad thing about Tony Canigliaro, he's gone. He's been gone for many years.
Good player in the early.
By the way, guys, are we pretty close to wrapping?
We are.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our second trivia question. Who was the first Major League pitcher to hit 2 home runs in the same game while throwing a no-hitter?
I have no idea on that one. How about you? But you want to take a stab?
Well, I'm going to guess a guy that was one of the best hitting pitchers of all time. I think he threw a no-hitter, so I'm going to guess Earl Wilson.
No, this is June 23rd, 1971.
Wow,
Not that long
okay.
ago. Rick Wise.
Rick Wise?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And Rick Wise was
I was going to say Rick Wise, but I went with Wilson.
Rick Wise was the guy that was traded by the to the Cardinals for Steve Carlton. One of the worst trades and one of the worst baseball trades of all time. And you don't see the Cardinals making that many bad trades.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got Steve Bitker for just a few more minutes, and I did want to ask you about working on the air with the Oakland A's and filling in for Bill King. And, Ken Korak has been in Oakland now for 20 years. He's the primary radio voice. What's it like working you had enough of an opportunity to do 20, 25 games a year for several years. What's it like traveling with the team and being a voice of the team and hanging out with the guys and really being a part of that special kind of group when you're on the road?
The only way to travel.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
You're flying in charter flights, which means no matter where you're sitting, the press and the coaches and the front office would sit in the front of the plane. So wherever you're sitting on the plane, it's first class all the way. You got tons of leg room. You got tablecloth, meal service. You've got beers, wines, whatever.
Where do I sign up?
At any time, as soon as you step on the plane, you've got a fruit plate, a vegetable plate, maybe some chicken skewers, and frequently when we would fly into Texas, play the Rangers, as Bruce knows, I did more road games in Texas than anywhere else because Bill King hated that place. And we would often fly back in Mark Cuban's plane, his Dallas Mavericks jet. And you want to talk about leg room.
Yeah,
I I was assigned to Dirk Nowitzki's team.
Oh my God!
Hey, Steve, how tall are you?
I'm 5'8" on a good day.
Okay.
So you could really stretch out. You could really stretch out.
Nowitzki and Steve Nash had seats right next to each other. So, and I, for some reason, always had Nowitzki's seat. But when you walked onto that plane, because of the lighting and the decor, it felt like you were walking into a nightclub. So the travel was great. You were always in 5-star hotels. So that was phenomenal. When you arrived in any city, there was a luxury bus ready to take everybody to the hotel, and the hotel keys were waiting on the table as soon as you walked into the hotel. I mean, everything was first class. You got good meal money, so you could eat well. I worked with Ken Korak, who is one of the very, very best in the business. Fabulous person, incredible pipes. I always felt so inadequate.
Yeah, he's good.
My voice working with him. He's a great play-by-play announcer. But there were also several times during those years when Greg Papa, who was doing television for the A's, would announce Raiders games. Korak would then move in to the television booth to replace Papa, and I got to work with Bill King. So, I was working with one of the great legends in broadcasting history, and a guy that I grew up with as the voice of the Warriors, the voice of the Raiders, and to this day, the best basketball and football announcer that I've ever heard, bar none.
Yeah.
So, and Bill was a sensational guy, a wonderful guy to work with. There was one game in particular. I worked at Yankee Stadium, a Friday night game. It started at 8. It went 16 innings. It lasted 6 hours.
Wow.
It was Bill and me cramped into this little booth at the old Yankee Stadium. But what a fantastic experience it was. The A's ended up winning that game. But there were just so many people I met over the years, so many great interviews I had a chance to do, including the legendary voice of the Yankees, Bob Shepard. I interviewed him when he was in his 90s. He was as lucid as ever. Eric Gita, number 2.
Well, I got invited to join the radio broadcast for just the local baseball team here.
San Rafael Pacific.
Yeah. And so, here I am kind of hoping to go, base hit up the middle, like that sort of thing, right? And I'm adding extra commentary, and then during commercial break, I get told, hey, you ain't the play-by-play announcer. You just add extra stuff once in a while,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I go, so wait a minute, so you're Dwayne Kuiper and I'm Mike Kruko. Yes, you got it.
Yeah, there you go.
I worked, Bruce, I worked one game, spring training. This was like the first week of spring training in Arizona, and Korak was doing the UNLV basketball game. So the A's got a hold of me and said, can you fly down to Arizona, just do this one game with Bill? Because Bill, especially early in spring training, Bill loves being down there, but he hates doing the games by himself because, early in spring training, you've got, so many non-roster guys and guys with numbers that, are up in the 80s and the 90s, and it's just kind of overwhelming. So I said, sure. So I fly down there with Bill, and at the end of 6 innings, the score is something like 18-11.
Oh, jeez. Arena baseball.
Yeah.
I did the 3rd and 4th innings. Bill did the first 4. His scorecard is a complete mess. And Bill, during the commercial break before the 7th inning, says, Steve, you want to do the last 3 innings? And I said, sure. He goes, great, I'm out of here.
There's nothing quite like it. My big dream was to do play-by-play, and I got to do a little minor league ball here and there, but I got to audition, and I knew I wasn't going to get the job because Dave Fleming got it, a brilliant young announcer who's been with the Giants now for 10 years. But I got to do 12 Giant games back in 2003, and there's nothing like, as you say, Biff, there's nothing like, if you're a broadcaster, being able to sit there and paint the word picture and talk about the game as it's unfolding in front of you and be the eyes and ears. I think still to this day, radio is the best of all the media.
Well, it's like when I watch TV. I do that in my mind.
I used to do that when I was a kid, actually.
Yeah, sure.
Did you announce games as a
Like
kid?
Vince Scully said, you could have 10 different guys announcing the same game on radio, and each one will paint a different picture.
That's true.
Or person listening to that broadcast will create a different picture based on that person's imagination. So
Good point.
it is. It's the best sport on radio there is, bar none.
Hey, you know, before we let you go, I got to ask you. I was at the 49er game the other day, and I'm listening on my smartphone to the MLB app and listened to the entire game as much of it as I could of Vince Scully's last game, and it was against the Giants, a game the Giants had to win.
Yeah.
And it was on the 80th anniversary of Vince Scully becoming a Giants fan as a little boy. He later was, of course, named the Dodger announcer, so his loyalties were the Dodgers. But I mean, I was listening to this guy, guys, and I couldn't believe how clear and how calm and poised and articulate he still was at the age of 88.
That's young.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
been in baseball for 67 years. Yeah.
67 years as voice of the Dodgers. Willie Mays was in the minor league when Benny was the voice of the Dodgers.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And there was a great moment when Willie came up to the booth and they spoke at the ballpark in San Francisco for about 20 minutes. And then they put their arms around each other, and Vinny said, "Thank you so much for coming up here, Willie. It really means a lot to me."
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it is.
You know, in fact, the Dodgers, you know, they've been kind of almost like the old Yankees of buying their payroll. What do you think? They're going to actually finally do something this year?
Bit, what do you think?
asking me or
Yeah, no, go ahead. We want to get your thoughts about this.
Well, I mean, the Yankees, you know, midway through the season, they were just a collection of aging veterans and no sense of direction. And then when they finally decided to go young, a lot of these young guys, Gary Sanchez in particular, the young catcher, were looking mighty impressive. So I don't know that the Yankees are ready to be a contender in the American League East next year, but they almost got in as a stunning wild card this year. I mean, they were in the race down to the final week or 10 days.
But I mean, the Dodgers, you know, they've had this huge payroll, and every year they get right there, and then they lose it in the division series or, you know, the.
I know. I mean, how many division titles are they winning?
Yeah.
As great as Clayton Kershaw is, the best pitcher in the game, you know, he's got his little postseason demons to overcome.
Yeah.
So hopefully for his sake, he'll do it. I mean, personally, I know I'm surrounded by everybody here who wants the Giants to win another World Series, but I would love to see the Cubs in this 108-year-old streak.
Yeah.
And if the Giants do happen to knock off the Cubs, it would be really exciting to see the Giants and the Dodgers in the NLCS, because the Giants and the Dodgers had never, ever met in the postseason. They had those best-of-3 playoffs in 51 and 62 when they were deadlocked, but those were added games to the regular season. They never met in a postseason game.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of unfair, even though I know technically it was regular season, but those were such a. I mean, you and I were kids when that was going on, and I'll never forget listening to the radio, waiting somewhere and listening to the car radio of that ninth inning when the Giants scored 4 runs in the ninth and pulled it out in L.A. after seemingly blowing the series. And, you know, that's, to me, that's what baseball is all about, when you get to that dramatic final
Well,
moment.
and there's only one person I know who's rooting for the Cubs more than us, and that's Steve Bartman.
Yeah. Boy, I wonder where that guy is hanging out these days.
I think
That would be the interview to land, wouldn't it?
That would be.
Well, I heard that Bill Buckner has finally been released of his.
Well, he should be. I mean, the Red Sox have won 3 World Championships.
But, I mean, I think if the Cubs finally win it, then
they can forgive Steve Bartman.
I don't know. I'm still upset about the 2002 World Series, how the Giants lost to the Angels.
Well, that's a tough one too. That was a tough one.
I were down there.
Yeah.
We're there.
We were indeed. Steve, it's such a pleasure having you with us, man.
Yeah,
I really love
yeah.
talking baseball with you.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Eddie.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye. Steve Bitker from KCBS. You know, it's so much fun to talk about baseball this time of the year, because a lot of the fans jump on the bandwagon, you know, naturally so, because the games mean that much more. But you think about it, and we're going back to 1903. There is, with the exception of 1994 when they had the players' strike, there's always been a World Series. That's 113, 114 years.
Even during
the wars, yeah. They talked about curtailing baseball, and Franklin Roosevelt and also the people who ran baseball at the time felt that it was important for Americans to continue to try to live a fairly normal life. There were a lot of players that left Major League Baseball and served out their duties with the armed forces from 42 to 45, but the games continued.
Yeah, I think that was really smart, because it's kind of, you know, American. It's apple pie, right?
Well, it's ingrained in the American culture. It is a part of our lifestyle, and I know that football has sort of taken center stage because it's more of a TV sport and it's an event. sport, and it's violent, and it's exciting, and it's brutal, and it's
Well, it's
you
not
know.
162 games.
But yeah, but baseball is every day, and you get into all the little subtleties, and you get to know the players a lot better, and you really almost, if you really become a part of a team in terms of following that team, they almost become a part of your daily routine. They really do, and still to this day. I mean, look now. Granted, the attendance was down this year a little bit. It dropped 1.1%, but it was still 73,159,044 paid fans this year. That's an average of 30,169 fans a game. The Dodgers had 3.7 million. The Giants had 3.37. Cardinals at 3.44. Blue Jays.
Tampa Bay had 70,000, right?
No, Tampa Bay actually was the lowest, but they still had 1.29 million. And back in
That's not bad.
when I was a kid back in the '60s, 1.29 million wasn't that bad.
No,
Not bad. I mean, even the Oakland A's were 29th in baseball in attendance. 1.5 million people showed up. That means almost 20,000 people a game.
Yeah, that actually isn't too bad,
No.
especially when you're talking about at least 81 games.
Well, and also you're talking about a bad team. You know, who goes out to see a bad team? Well, a lot of people
Only
do.
when there's a good team playing.
That's right.
All right, so here we go. Here's our last trivia question. Who was the first president of the United States to watch a Major League Baseball game from the dugout?
Ooh, good
So-
question. I was gonna say I
Taft.
thought maybe you were gonna say the first Major League or first president to throw out the first
and
ball.
that was Taft.
That was
wasn't it?
Taft. Yes, it was.
Oh,
William Howard Taft.
That's
I
right.
think 1909 might have been. Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our question. Who's
All
the
right.
first president of the United States to watch a Major League Baseball game from the dugout?
Oof.
All right, don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Steve seems like a nice
Yeah,
guy.
he is. He's a baseballaholic. Loves the statistics. Really gets into that stuff.
We should have a sit down someday because I used to be really into it more. You know, how does he get so busy with stuff?
Oh, I know. Well, you got a busy life, man. You got your properties, you got your business, you got your family. I mean, you know, and you got to take care of your health and get out and exercise. And
Yeah.
there's not, and you only have 16 hours a day to do it.
That's it.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm finding this out. You know, I mean, I haven't really been working hardly very much at all since KGO, and that was only part time. And I'm finding I have no time during the day because of my thing with Colette and being a dad. You know, with Molly, and it's just well, it's not quite true. I do have some time, but it's very limited.
And then when you do, you want to get that enjoyment and the relaxation out and all that.
I squeeze in my surfing when I can. That's my therapy, though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got at 4:00. My health insurance guys meeting. I mean, I know a lot about life insurance and disability insurance.
Yeah.
When it comes to health insurance,
Ooh.
I bring in the expert.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I mean, it's like my premium's going up like $600 a month.
Yeah, well, you're at that age. Yeah, I know.
It would be.
How old are you now?
This many.
55. 54?
I'm 56 and a half.
Yeah, once you get past 55, it starts to go up.
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
I didn't vote for this. I didn't sign up for this.
Well, it's unfortunate. There are a lot of people that don't take good care of themselves.
Sure.
You know?
We all get kind of lumped together.
Yeah, we do.
All right. We've got just a couple of minutes
Yeah.
left. Just want to talk.
Yeah. I'll follow your lead.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Last trivia question. Who was the first president of the United States to watch a Major League Baseball game from the dugout?
Teddy Roosevelt?
No. Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan watched
From
from
the
the dugout?
dugout.
Oh,
Dugout.
from the dugout.
Yeah.
Okay. Ronald Reagan loved baseball. As a matter of fact, I think he was in a baseball movie where he played Grover Cleveland Alexander, and
Yes.
Doris Day was his wife. Now he also played a football player, George Gipp,
Yep.
in what was the name of that movie? It was about
The Newton Rockney.
the Newt Rockney All-American, and Pat O'Brien played Newt Rockney.
So Grover Cleveland Alexander pitched
Right.
around 1911.
He pitched for about 30 years, and he had a terrible problem with alcoholism, and he used alcohol to medicate himself because he had some kind of illness that where he would go into, he would just convulsions, yeah. And he pitched until he was almost, I think, 42. Matter of fact, the great story about him was he came in and pitched in relief in the 1926 World Series against the Yankees, and was the hero of that World Series. At the age of 40, the Cardinals beat the Yankees in that series. It was a very close series. And Babe Ruth, I believe the story is, made the last out by getting thrown out trying to steal second base.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Can you
yes,
believe
yes.
that?
I've seen clips of that.
I think that's the only
Yeah.
time in baseball history that a player has gotten thrown out for the last out of the World Series trying to steal a base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to cut out for the day. So here's our thoughts for the day. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
So true.
So true.
Yeah.
I always come up with these ones I know you'll like philosophically.
Well, according to Steve Bitker, Barry Bonds was that way. I disagree. I think Bonds worked hard, but
Yeah, I think
Bonds went by the sound of the beat of his own drum. And hey, listen, the guy was a great player.
Well, and again, if you
Not a likable guy, but a great player.
but also if you've been enabled, it's like you don't know any better.
You don't know any better. Yeah.
Okay, and a true man of character knows his limitations, but doesn't accept them.
I
like that one
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long. In fact, I just heard from Vern.
Yeah, I just gave him a call. I was going to see if he would come on. No, not today because I knew he would be too busy.
busy,
but
yeah.